Settle in and do not look away. This entire story is a single chilling journey that is best experienced in full. If you appreciate tales of the supernatural, show your support by subscribing. It lets us know you want more. Now, listen closely. I didn't buy the house because I loved it. I bought it because no one else wanted it. That distinction matters. When something sits on the market long enough, people assume there's a reason. Structural damage, legal issues, a history no one wants to inherit. But this one didn't sit on the market. It flickered there, like a glitch. 1 week it existed on the listing site. The next week it was gone. Then back again. Same photos, same description, same impossible price. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2 acres of wooded land outside a small Montana town called Briar Hollow. I checked. Briar Hollow exists. The house did too, at least physically. But digitally? That's where things started to feel wrong. The first time I searched the address on Google Maps, nothing came up. Just a stretch of undeveloped trees. I figured it was outdated satellite imagery. That happens in rural counties. So I pulled county property records. No listing under the street name. No parcel ID match. No tax history. That should have stopped me. It didn't. Because the realtor met me there in person. Because I walked through it. Because I turned doorknobs and stepped on the creaking floorboards and smelled the faint trace of old wood and something else I couldn't quite place. Dust, but not abandonment. It felt paused. Like someone had left mid-sentence. The realtor was nervous, didn't linger, didn't oversell, just unlocked the door, let me wander, and stood outside most of the showing. When I asked why it was priced so low, she said, "The previous owner wanted it sold quickly." Why? She hesitated. Relocation. That word didn't fit the way she said it. The paperwork processed fast. Too fast. No inspection delay. No counteroffer. Cash transaction. I signed the documents in a small office that felt overly quiet. When I asked about property taxes, the clerk said, "They'll update the system after closing." That phrasing stayed with me. Update the system, as if the house wasn't in it yet, but would be, because of me. I moved in alone. That was intentional. I'm not married, no kids. Remote IT work gives me flexibility. I wanted quiet, space, isolation. The house delivered all of that. The first night was uneventful. Boxes in the living room, air mattress in the master bedroom, wind against the siding. Total silence otherwise. No highway hum, no distant neighbors. Just trees and the occasional creak of settling wood. I slept fine. The second night, I woke up at exactly 2:42 a.m. Not from noise, from awareness. That sudden, unnatural alertness, like someone had spoken your name softly. I lay still, listened. Nothing. Then I noticed something subtle. The house didn't feel dark enough. You know how rural darkness swallows everything? No ambient glow from streetlights, no city bleed. But my bedroom had a faint grey wash to it, like distant cloud reflection. I got up, walked to the window, and saw something that made my stomach tighten. The trees were farther away. When I toured the property, the woods pressed close to the backyard. Dense, encroaching, branches almost brushing the back deck. Now, there was space, not a clearing, but a measurable gap, at least 30 feet of open ground before the tree line. I stood there for a long time, convincing myself I misremembered. Memory adjusts, perspective shifts. Maybe I just didn't notice during the showing. But when morning came, I stepped outside, walked to where I thought the original tree line had been, and found something worse than absence. The ground where the trees should have been wasn't freshly exposed soil. It was older, compacted, as if the space had always been there. No uprooted stumps, no torn roots, just earth, like the forest had never stood that close at all. I tried to shake it off. Unpacking helped. Routine helps. Control the interior if the exterior feels unstable. That afternoon, I set up my office in the second bedroom, ran Ethernet cable, configured the router. That's when I noticed the network name. The Wi-Fi was already active. I hadn't set it up yet. The SSID read 2412-boundary. No password. Full signal. I frowned. Maybe the previous owner left a router plugged in somewhere. I scanned the house again. Every closet, every cabinet, basement. Nothing. No modem, no router. But the signal remained strong. I connected. No internet access. Just a blank internal page. White screen. One line of text. Property registered. I unplugged my laptop immediately. When I refreshed, the network was gone. That night, I dreamed of blueprints, not abstract shapes, actual floor plans, detailed, measured, labeled. But they weren't of my house. They were slightly different. Rooms extended further, hallways bent at impossible angles. There was a door in the master bedroom wall that doesn't exist. In the dream, I opened it and saw another version of the same bedroom, but older, worn, occupied. I woke up sweating, and for a split second, I couldn't tell which version I was in. 3 days after moving in, I drove into town, stopped at the local diner. Small place, 5 booths, coffee thick enough to chew. I mentioned my address casually to the waitress. She frowned. "That road ends at the old Miller property," she said. "That's mine." "No," she said slowly. "That burned." My pulse thudded once in my ears. "When?" She wiped her hands on a towel. "Years back. Nobody rebuilt." I held eye contact. "I'm living there." She studied me carefully, then shook her head once. "Then you're not on Miller Road." When I got home, I checked the mailbox. The address plate had changed. Same numbers, different street name. The one I memorized during closing was gone, replaced with something I didn't recognize. I pulled out my phone, opened maps, dropped a pin where I stood. No road, no house, just forest. And the blue dot marking my location blinked uncertainly, then shifted 30 feet to the east, exactly where the trees used to be. That was the moment I understood something wasn't wrong with the house. The house was functioning perfectly. It was the location that wasn't stable, and I had just been registered. The first time you notice a pattern, you try to disprove it. The second time, you try to rationalize it. The third time, you stop sleeping. I reached the third stage on day 5. The mailbox changed again. Not dramatically. Same metal box, same post, but the numbers were slightly different. Not enough to be obvious at a glance, just off. Where it once read 1847, it now read 1841. I stared at it long enough to feel stupid. Maybe I'd misread it before. Maybe I'd typed it wrong during paperwork. So I went inside and pulled out my closing documents. The printed address, 1847 Miller Road. I stepped back outside. The mailbox, 1841 Briar Pass. Different number, different street, same house. I walked down the dirt road toward town. 50 yards out, I turned back. The house was still there. Another 50 yards, still there. At about 100, it flickered. Not vanished, not blinked, just thinned, like heat distortion. I blinked hard. It solidified again. My throat tightened. Distance was doing something. That afternoon I tested the boundary intentionally. I drove into town and asked the clerk at the hardware store to print a local map. She gave me a folded county grid. I found Miller Road. It ended at a dead clearing. No extension, no Briar Pass, no additional parcel beyond the burned property. When I asked her if any new construction had been added out there recently, she shook her head. That land's been untouched since the fire. What fire? I asked. She looked confused. You live here and don't know? I just moved. She nodded slowly. Old Man Miller. House went up overnight. They never found a cause. No body either. No body. I didn't ask more, because something inside me had already connected that detail to the way the realtor avoided eye contact. When I got home, the trees were closer again. Not dramatically, but enough. The 30-foot gap I'd measured earlier had narrowed to maybe 20. No signs of growth, no fallen trunks. The space itself had compressed, like the property line was breathing. I walked to the backyard fence. There was no fence. There had never been one. But I remembered leaning against it during the showing. I remembered the realtor standing near it while I walked the yard. I could picture it clearly. Wood slats, weathered, grey. Now, nothing. open ground. I searched for post holes, discoloration, hardware. There was none. My memory was precise. The environment was precise. But they did not match. That night, the house made a new sound. Not creaking, not wind. A low internal shift, like weight redistributing inside the walls. I sat upright in bed. The sound moved from the hallway to the living room to the kitchen. Measured, slow, heavy. Not footsteps, structural, as if rooms were settling into new positions. I stepped into the hallway. The air felt slightly warmer. The light switch I'd installed 2 days ago was on the opposite wall. I froze. No, impossible. I walked back into the bedroom, counted steps, re-entered the hallway. The switch was back where it belonged. My breathing turned shallow. The house wasn't changing permanently. It was testing configurations, like software cycling through layouts. And I was inside the program. I opened my laptop the next morning and searched my own name in the county property database. Nothing. I searched the parcel number from my closing documents. Invalid entry. I checked my bank account. The withdrawal for the house purchase was still there, but the transaction description had changed. Instead of property purchase, Miller Road, it now read land registration, zone 2412. Zone 2412. The Wi-Fi name 2412-boundary. My pulse thudded in my ears. This wasn't a purchase. It was an assignment. I drove back out toward the road to test the distance again. This time, I brought a marker. At 50 yards, I spray painted a small red line on a rock. At 100 yards, another. Then I walked back toward the house. From the 100-yard mark, it flickered again. But this time, the red mark behind me was gone. The rock was clean. No paint, no evidence I'd ever been there. I turned slowly. The forest stretched normally, undisturbed. No footprints in the dirt. I looked down at my shoes. Clean. No dust, no mud. As if I hadn't walked at all. My heart began pounding harder. If the space resets beyond a certain radius, then nothing outside that radius anchors. And if nothing anchors, then the only stable point is the house itself. That evening, I tried something reckless. I left the front door open, intentionally. If the house adjusted internally, I wanted to see if it respected open boundaries. I sat in the living room, watched the doorway. Dusk settled slowly. The trees shifted closer. The air thickened. And then, the doorway narrowed. Not physically, visually. The frame seemed slightly tighter. The outside world felt farther away, as if the door didn't open to distance, but to a projection of distance. The porch light flickered. The dirt road beyond the driveway looked shorter, compressed. I stood slowly, walked toward the threshold. The moment I stepped outside, the house went silent behind me. No hum, no shifting, nothing. I turned around. The door was gone. Just wall, solid siding, no frame, no handle, no seam. My breath stopped. I ran my hands across the wood, flat, unbroken. I stepped backward, 10 feet, 20, 30. The door reappeared, open exactly as I'd left it. And I understood the rule immediately. The house does not exist unless observed from within its boundary. Outside that radius, it becomes potential. Inside, it becomes structure. And I had just tested its patience. That night, I dreamed again. But this time, it wasn't blueprints. It was a map. Top-down, satellite view. Forest stretching endlessly. In the center, a faint square. My house. Around it, a circle. Thin, glowing. And outside the circle, nothing rendered. Just blank terrain, like unfinished simulation space. Then text appeared across the map. Stability requires occupancy. I woke up at exactly 2:42 a.m. Again. But this time, the bedroom was larger. The wall opposite my bed had shifted outward by at least 2 feet. The window frame was wider. The air felt deeper. I swung my legs off the mattress slowly, walked to the hallway. The hallway extended farther than it had before. One extra door at the end, where there had only been blank wall. I stared at it for a long time, and somewhere deep inside I knew that door hadn't appeared randomly. It appeared because I was starting to understand, and the house was responding. I didn't open the new door immediately. That's important, because curiosity is manageable. Commitment isn't. The hallway had always ended in a blank stretch of drywall. I was certain of that. I'd leaned against it while taking a call on my second day here. I'd measured the wall to see if I could hang shelving. Now there was a door. Plain, white. No handle. Just a vertical seam and a faint outline where the frame met the wall. The house wasn't creaking. It wasn't shifting. It was waiting. I approached slowly. The air felt denser near the door, warmer, not humid, compressed, like stepping into higher altitude without climbing. I ran my fingers along the seam. Smooth. No hardware. No hinges visible. I pressed gently. Nothing. Then I leaned my forehead against it and closed my eyes. The moment my weight settled forward, the door moved inward without sound. Not swinging, sliding, receding into darkness. I stepped back immediately. Inside was not a room. It was depth. A narrow corridor extending farther than the dimensions of the house allowed. No light fixture, no visible source of illumination. Yet I could see. Soft grey light revealed smooth walls and a floor that looked like unfinished concrete. The corridor bent slightly to the right, just enough to block the end from view. My heartbeat slowed. Not accelerated. Slowed. That's what frightened me most. The house wasn't provoking fear. It was dampening it, encouraging forward motion. I grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen drawer. When I returned, the corridor remained. Unchanged. Stable. I stepped inside. The moment both feet crossed the threshold, the hallway behind me shortened. Not dramatically, just subtly, like perspective tightening. I turned quickly. The bedroom door at the far end of the original hallway was smaller, farther away. I walked forward 2 steps. The corridor extended proportionally, balanced, maintaining center around me. I tested it, took 1 step back. The far end shortened. 1 step forward. It lengthened. The corridor wasn't fixed. It was reactive, calibrated to my position. I stopped moving. It stopped adjusting. That's when I noticed something on the wall. Numbers, faintly etched, at shoulder height, repeated every few feet. Not written, carved, as if the wall itself had been measured in that unit. Zone 2412. Boundary. I swallowed hard. At the bend in the corridor, I hesitated, because bends imply concealment, and concealment implies intent. I turned the corner slowly. The corridor opened into a square room, 10 by 10 feet. Perfect symmetry. In the center stood a wooden desk, old, worn. On the desk, a folder, cream-colored, unlabeled. I didn't want to touch it, but the room felt incomplete without opening it, like a sentence missing its final word. I approached carefully. The folder was warm, not hot, just held, as if someone had been touching it moments before I arrived. Inside were photographs, black and white. Each image showed the same house, from different decades, different angles, different architectural details. In some photos, the porch was wider. In others, the roofline sloped differently. But the land remained identical. Forest. No neighboring houses. And in every photo, a person stood in the front yard. Alone. Male. Different ages. Different eras. But always standing in the same position. Facing the camera. Expression neutral. The final photo was recent. Color. High resolution. The man standing in the yard was me, wearing the clothes I had on yesterday. I dropped the photograph. It hit the concrete without sound. That absence bothered me. Paper makes noise. Always. But this didn't. I stepped back toward the corridor. The room expanded slightly as I moved, walls breathing outward. I turned quickly and hurried down the corridor. With each step toward the original hallway, it shortened, compressed. When I crossed back into my house, the door slid shut behind me without a click. No seam remained. just drywall, smooth, unmarked. The hallway was its original length. No extra space, no distortion. I ran my hands over the wall where the door had been. Nothing. But my pulse had not returned to normal, because the folder had been real. The photos had been real, and the last one had not existed until yesterday. I didn't sleep that night. At 2:42 a.m., I was already awake. The air in the house felt different, balanced, centered, as if the internal structure had stabilized. Then I heard something new, not shifting, not settling. Typing, faint, from somewhere deeper in the walls. Slow, deliberate keystrokes. I followed the sound into the living room. The Wi-Fi network reappeared on my phone. 2412-boundary. Full signal. No password. I connected. The white page loaded instantly, but this time it wasn't blank. Text scrolled across the screen in real time. Occupant verified. Structural adaptation complete. Expansion phase pending. My hands trembled slightly. A new line appeared. External stability decreasing. I looked up instinctively. The windows felt darker. Not nighttime dark, absence dark, as if nothing existed beyond the glass. I stepped toward the front window slowly. Outside, no trees, no road, no sky, just grey, flat, like unfinished rendering. I pressed my hand against the glass, cold, solid, real, but the world beyond it was not. I turned back toward the hallway. The wall at the end shimmered faintly. A vertical seam reappeared. Not the same door. Wider. This time it had a handle. Metal. Cold. Intentional. The house was no longer hiding the expansion. It was inviting it. I didn't move toward it because something had finally become clear. The property wasn't adjusting randomly. It was calibrating to me. Each time I explored, each time I tested distance, each time I questioned the boundary, it grew. Like a muscle responding to strain, and the more stable I remained inside it, the less stable the outside became. I walked back to the front window. The grey void pressed closer to the glass. The house was the only defined structure left, the only rendered object in the environment, and I understood something with absolute certainty. The house does not sit on land. Land exists around the house. And if the house expands, everything else contracts. The typing resumed, faster now. On the Wi-Fi page, new text appeared. Expansion requires anchoring. Anchoring requires occupancy. Occupancy confirmed. Then a final line. Previous occupant released. The air pressure shifted instantly. The windows flickered. And outside, for a split second, I saw something standing in the grey void. A silhouette. human, watching. Then it dissolved, like smoke dispersing in reverse. My stomach dropped. Released, not escaped. Released, which means the system cycles, and I had just triggered the next phase. The handle on the new door turned slowly from the inside. I didn't tell anyone about the second body, not the sheriff, not the volunteers, not even my brother, because this time it wasn't a body, it was standing. The third night after the divers pulled up nothing from the quarry, I went back alone. I told myself it was for closure, for proof, for logic. But the truth is simpler. It was calling me again. The quarry sat like a wound carved into the forest outside of town, abandoned decades ago. A sheer drop of black water surrounded by jagged stone and pine trees that never seemed to sway, no matter how hard the wind blew. The police had sealed off the main path with tape. I didn't use the main path. There's an old service road on the north side, half eaten by weeds, hidden unless you know where to look. I parked a mile away and walked. The air felt heavy, like before a storm, but the sky was clear. No wind, no insects, no sound. That silence again, the kind that presses against your ears, the kind that makes your heartbeat sound too loud. I reached the cliff's edge and shined my flashlight down. The beam barely touched the surface. The water absorbs light, not reflects, not scatters, absorbs, like it's swallowing it whole. I told myself I was being dramatic. Water can look black at night. That's normal. That's explainable. I sat down on the rock and waited. For what? I didn't know. Maybe for that feeling, that pull, that whisper under the ribs. And then it came. A ripple, not across the surface, up, like something moved beneath it vertically, something tall. My stomach tightened, the ripple stopped, the water went flat, and then the temperature dropped. Not a breeze, not a shift, a drop. Sharp enough to sting my lungs when I inhaled. I stood slowly. My flashlight beam trembled. And then, something broke the surface, but it didn't splash. It rose, slowly, like a pole, like a column of darker black against black. It wasn't wide. It wasn't thrashing, it just rose. My brain tried to call it a branch, a reflection, a trick of depth. But branches don't keep rising. Branches don't stand upright. And branches don't tilt their head, because it had a head. A shape, not detailed, not clear, but a silhouette. Long shoulders, narrow torso, too tall. It stood in the water without moving, without sinking, without floating, just standing, facing me. I couldn't breathe. My body refused. My throat locked, my hands went numb. And then I heard it. Not from the air, not from the trees, from inside my skull, a low, layered sound, like multiple voices speaking through water. Not words, just tone, recognition. I knew it. I knew that sound. It was the same vibration I'd felt that first night when I leaned over the edge, when something leaned back. The silhouette lifted one arm, slowly. Water streamed off it, but made no noise when it hit the surface. It didn't wave, it didn't reach. It simply raised its arm to chest height and held it there, like an invitation. I stumbled back. My heels slipped on gravel. Pebbles skidded over the edge and vanished. The thing didn't react. It just stood, waiting. The pressure inside my head grew heavier. Not pain, weight, like someone pressing a palm against my thoughts. And then, images, not memories, not exactly, but scenes, flashes. People standing at the quarry's edge over the years, alone, sad, angry, lost, leaning forward, listening. One by one, they didn't jump, they stepped, like sleepwalkers. And the water didn't splash, it opened, like a mouth. I gasped and fell to my knees. The images stopped. The silhouette remained, unmoving, the arm still raised, offering. I shook my head violently. No. My voice cracked. I'm not. The temperature dropped again. Frost began to creep across the stone near the waterline. Not thick, just a thin, white shimmer. Breathing became harder. The silhouette tilted its head further, studying me, not hunting, not rushing, just patient. I realized something then. It wasn't pulling me, not physically. It was offering something else. Relief, silence, an end to noise, an end to weight, an end to the constant pressure in my chest I'd lived with since her, since that hospital room, since the machines stopped, since I drove home alone, since the house felt too big. The quarry wasn't choosing random people. It was choosing the ones already leaning, the ones already hollow. I felt my body sway forward, just slightly, and the silhouette's raised arm lifted higher, encouraging. I dug my fingernails into my palm, hard. The sting broke something. I don't belong to you, I whispered. The pressure intensified. The layered sound became louder, like a choir underwater. My vision blurred. The world narrowed to black and darker black. The silhouette stepped forward. The water didn't part. It didn't ripple. It solidified beneath its foot. And that's when I saw it clearly. Its surface wasn't skin. It was water, held in shape, contained, a body made of the quarry itself, and inside it, faces, faint, distorted, pressing outward, eyes open, mouths moving silently, hundreds, no, more. My brother's name nearly left my lips, but I swallowed it because one of the faces looked like me. Not present, not alive, but potential. A space waiting. The silhouette reached both arms out now, open, like a parent waiting for a child to run into them. My knees slid closer to the edge without permission. The frost spread further. My breath fogged thick. And then, a sound shattered the silence. A car door slamming in the distance. The silhouette froze. The pressure faltered. Headlights flickered through trees. Voices. Human. Real. The silhouette's form began to waver. The faces inside it rippled. The frost retreated. The layered sound thinned. But before it sank, it tilted its head once more. And I understood something without words. It wasn't angry. It wasn't defeated. It wasn't even disappointed. It was patient. It would wait, because it knows something I don't. It knows that everyone leans eventually. The silhouette dissolved back into the water. No splash, no ripple, just absence. The surface went flat, silent, dark. The voices from the trees grew louder. Search volunteers, flashlights. Someone had reported seeing my car. I stumbled back from the edge. My legs barely worked. When the sheriff's deputy found me, I told him I slipped, that I just needed air. He didn't believe me, but he didn't push, because 2 more people had gone missing that week, and the quarry was already under investigation. They're draining it next month. That's the official plan. Pumps, machinery, floodlights. They think they'll find bodies. Maybe they will. But I know what they won't find. They won't find the shape. They won't find the faces. They won't find the space that was waiting for mine, because it doesn't live in the water. It lives in the leaning. And I'm scared, because even now, when I close my eyes, I still feel that arm lifting, waiting. I didn't sleep, not after that. I kept the lights on in the kitchen and sat at the table until dawn, the phone placed face up in front of me like it might move on its own. It didn't ring again. It didn't vibrate. It didn't light up. And somehow, that was worse. The silence felt intentional, like something waiting for me to make the next move. By 6:30, the sky outside the window had turned that pale grey that makes everything look drained of colour. Suburban morning signs began slowly. A car starting somewhere down the block, a dog barking, a garage door opening. Normal. Everything looked normal. That word has started to lose meaning. I opened the phone. The call log still showed it. Unknown number, 3:17 a.m. Duration 0012. I tapped it. No number listed. No contact details. Just blank space where digits should be. I checked my service provider app. No record of the call. That's when my hand started shaking again, because if it didn't go through my carrier, then how did it reach my phone? I told myself there was a rational explanation. There always is. There has to be. I made coffee and forced myself to sit still long enough to think clearly. The rules. The voice had said there were rules. It hadn't listed them. It assumed I already knew. That means this didn't start last night. That means this started earlier, and I didn't recognize it. I tried to go back mentally. Every strange thing from the past week. The trash bin lid open, the hallway light on, the back gate unlatched, the sound in the garage, the neighbour's porch light flicking on at 3 a.m. Each one small, each one explainable, individually harmless. Together, not harmless. A pattern, and I had missed it. At 8:12 a.m, someone knocked on my front door. 3 slow knocks. Not aggressive, not rushed. Measured. I froze. No one ever knocks anymore. People text, they ring, they don't knock. I stood up slowly and walked to the door. I didn't open it immediately. Instead, I looked through the side window. There was a man standing on my porch, late 40s, maybe early 50s, wearing a dark jacket, no visible logos. He wasn't holding a package. He wasn't holding paperwork. He was just standing there, still, like he'd been there a while. He knocked again, 3 times. I opened the door. "Can I help you?" He looked directly at me, not scanning, not assessing, just looking. "You live alone?" he asked. My throat tightened. "Why?" He smiled. It wasn't friendly. It wasn't threatening either. It was patient. "We've received reports," he said calmly. "Reports of what?" "Disturbances." My pulse spiked. "From who?" "From you." I stared at him. "I didn't report anything." His expression didn't change. "Yes," he said quietly. "You did." I felt something shift in my stomach. Cold. "No," I repeated. "You called 3 times this week." "I didn't." He tilted his head slightly. "Are you sure?" There was something wrong with the way he asked that, like he was testing me. "I don't even know who you are," I said. He nodded slowly. "That's expected." Expected. The word echoed. Expected by who? He didn't answer. Instead, he glanced past me into the house. "May I come in?" "No." The answer came too fast, too sharp. His eyes returned to mine. "Are you certain?" Every instinct in my body said, "Don't let him inside." "Yes," I said. The silence stretched. The air between us felt thick. Then he smiled again. "All right." He stepped back from the door. "If you remember making the reports," he said softly, "call again." And then he walked down my driveway. No car, no vehicle parked on the street. He just kept walking. Past my mailbox, past the neighbor's house, toward the corner. And when he reached it, he turned and looked back at me. Not at the house, at me. Then he turned the corner and was gone. I shut the door and locked it. Every lock. Deadbolt, chain, back door, windows. My hands were trembling so badly I had to sit down again. "You called 3 times this week." I hadn't. I would remember, wouldn't I? I opened my phone again. Call log. Nothing unusual. I checked deleted calls. Nothing. I opened voicemail. Empty. Then I opened the voice memos app. I don't know why. I just did. There were 4 recordings. I never use voice memos. 4 recordings, all from this week. My blood went cold. Recording 1, 2:58 a.m. Recording 2, 3:03 a.m. Recording 3, 3:11 a.m. Recording 4, 3:17 a.m. The last one matched the time of the call. I didn't want to press play, but I did. Recording 1. Static. Soft breathing. Then my voice, whispering, "There's someone in the house." The recording cut off. I stopped breathing. I don't remember recording that. I don't remember waking up at 2:58 a.m. I pressed recording 2. More static. Footsteps. A door creaking. My voice again. He's standing in the hallway. My stomach flipped violently. Recording 3. He's closer now. My voice sounded strained, like I was trying not to cry. Recording 4. Silence at first. Then a whisper, right next to the microphone. Not mine. He knows. The recording ended. The room felt smaller, like the walls had moved in slightly while I was listening. I replayed the last one. That voice was not mine. It was lower, closer, too close, and the background, there was no echo, no room acoustics. It sounded like it was recorded inches from the phone, which means, if it wasn't me, it was someone else holding it, inside my house, at 3:17 a.m. I stood up slowly and walked down the hallway. Every door was open. Bedroom, bathroom, closet, empty. But the air felt disturbed, like someone had passed through recently. That's when I noticed something new. The hallway light switch was taped down. Not broken, not stuck. Taped. Clear tape holding it in the on position. I didn't do that. I know I didn't. My heart started pounding again. The rules. The voice said I knew the rules. Maybe I did. Maybe they've been happening and I've been following them without realizing. Don't turn off the hallway light. Don't answer unknown calls. Don't check certain rooms after 3 a.m. Don't acknowledge him. Don't speak his name. I don't know his name. Do I? Something is forming in my mind. something I don't want to see clearly yet, because once I do, I won't be able to pretend this is stress, or lack of sleep, or paranoia. This is structured, it's patterned, it's deliberate, and it's escalating. The man at the door, the calls, the recordings, the taped light switch. Someone thinks I reported something, and someone thinks I already know what it is. The worst part, there's a growing feeling in my chest that maybe I did. Maybe at some point this week, something happened. Something so wrong, my brain shut it out, and now it's trying to surface, piece by piece. And if that's true, then the thing in the hallway at 3:17 a.m. wasn't the beginning. It was a reminder. And tonight is coming. And I don't know the next rule, but I think I'm about to break it. I didn't remove the tape from the hallway switch. I stood there staring at it for a long time, trying to convince myself that I had done it, that maybe I taped it down in some half-awake state and forgot. But the tape was smooth, carefully placed, pressed flat, without wrinkles. Deliberate. I don't do anything deliberate at 3 in the morning. I stepped back into the kitchen and tried to breathe normally. Think. If someone had been inside the house, there would be signs. Forced entry. Missing items. Something moved. But nothing obvious was out of place. That's what bothered me. Nothing obvious. It felt curated, like whoever did this wanted me to notice only specific things. The light, the recordings, the call. Not chaos, not vandalism. Just enough, just precise enough to suggest presence. I checked every window again, every latch. Locked. I opened the garage. Empty. No disturbed dust. No unfamiliar footprints. I checked the attic pull-down ladder in the hallway ceiling. Still sealed with the little strip of paint along the edge that cracks if it's opened. Unbroken. Which means whoever recorded that voice, if it wasn't me, was not hiding here. So where? I went back to the phone, listened to the recordings again. I forced myself to focus on background noise. In recording 1, faint humming. In recording 2, the hum stopped. In recording 3, there was something else. A soft clicking. Rhythmic. Not mechanical, not random, like fingernails on drywall. Light. Patient. And in recording 4, nothing behind that whisper. No house echo, no environment. Just proximity, like the microphone was pressed against someone's mouth. I checked the timestamp data, all recorded from my bedroom, specifically from the nightstand. My blood ran cold. That means the phone never left its place beside my bed. Which means the whisper in recording 4 was leaning over me. The realization hit slow. If the phone was on the nightstand and the whisper was inches from the microphone, then the voice was inches from my head. While I was in bed, sleeping, or pretending to sleep. I felt sick. I don't remember waking up, but that doesn't mean I didn't. Memory isn't reliable when fear gets involved. There's something else, something I haven't wanted to look at. The closet. I haven't opened it since last night, not after I thought I heard something shift inside it around 2:40 a.m. I told myself it was the house settling. I told myself it was old wood. But the recordings start at 2:58, 18 minutes later. 18 minutes where I don't know what happened. I walked back into the bedroom slowly. The air felt colder in there. Not dramatically, just enough that my skin noticed. The closet door was closed, exactly as I left it. I stood there for a long time before reaching for the handle. My hand hesitated, not because I thought something would jump out, but because I was afraid nothing would. Afraid of the ambiguity. I opened it. Clothes, shoes, storage bins, normal. I crouched down and checked the floor behind the hanging jackets. Nothing. Then I noticed something small, on the inside edge of the closet door, near the hinge. Scratches, thin, vertical, grouped in threes. Not deep, but intentional, like something sharp had been dragged downward lightly. I touched them. Fresh. The wood fibers still pale, not oxidized. My breathing became shallow. 3 scratches, repeated. I closed the closet slowly, then reopened it. The scratches were still there. Of course they were. I laughed once, a dry, brittle sound. This is stress, that's what people would say. Isolation, lack of sleep, hyperfixation. But stress doesn't leave marks in wood. At least, I don't think it does. I stepped back into the hallway. The light above hummed faintly, that same faint electrical hum from recording 1. I froze. The hum. It wasn't background noise. It was this light, which means when recording 1 was made, the hallway light was already on, but I always turn it off before bed. Always. The pattern is becoming clearer. The light turns on at some point during the night. The recordings begin shortly after. Something moves closer. And then, he knows. Knows what? That I'm awake? That I'm pretending to sleep? Or that I'm starting to remember? I suddenly felt watched. Not from outside, not from windows, from inside. From somewhere in the house that isn't technically a room. Somewhere between walls, in the hollow spaces. I grabbed a chair and dragged it into the hallway. The sound scraped loudly across the floor. I needed noise, proof that sound behaves normally here. I climbed up and removed the tape from the switch. The light clicked off. The hallway plunged into shadow. And immediately, my phone vibrated. The sound made me almost fall off the chair. I jumped down and grabbed it. Unknown number, 3:17 p.m., not a.m., p.m. Broad daylight. I stared at it. It rang 3 times, stopped. No voicemail, no notification, just the call log entry. My hands were shaking harder now. It's adapting. The timing changed, because I changed something. The rule, don't turn off the hallway light. I broke it, and it responded. My chest tightened painfully. This isn't random, this is reactive. Something is monitoring behavior, adjusting, correcting, training. And the worst part, I think it's been doing it longer than I realize. There's a gap in my week. A meeting at work I don't remember attending but somehow have notes from. A grocery receipt for items I don't recall buying. 3 calls placed to a number labeled service line that doesn't exist in my contacts. The duration of those calls? 2 minutes. 2 minutes and 17 seconds. Every time. 2:17.
317. There's a pattern with that number. 17. I don't know why that matters, but it does. My mind keeps circling something just out of reach, like a memory blurred on purpose. A thought I decided was too dangerous to hold on to, and buried. I suddenly remembered something small. 3 nights ago, waking up briefly, seeing the hallway light on and thinking, good, it's here. I don't know what I meant, but I remember feeling relieved. Relieved. That's the part that scares me most, because relief implies familiarity, not intrusion, not attack.
Familiarity. What if this didn't enter my house? What if I let it in? Worse, what if I invited it? My stomach dropped. There's something else I haven't checked. The security camera. I installed one in the living room last year. I rarely look at it, but it records continuously to cloud storage. I opened the app, scrolled back to 2:50 a.m. Playback loaded. The living room appeared. Empty. Dark. Timestamp ticking forward. 2:56 a.m. 2:57. 2:58. At 2:58, the hallway light flicked on. The camera caught the glow spilling into the living room. No one visible. No movement. 3:01 a.m. Still nothing. 3:03. A shadow shifted at the edge of the hallway frame. Too tall to be me. Too narrow. It didn't step fully into view, just leaned, like it was checking. My breath caught in my throat. 3:11 a.m. The shadow was closer, elongated across the wall. It bent slightly, like it was lowering itself toward something. Toward my bedroom. The feed glitched at 3:17 a.m. Static filled the screen for 5 seconds. When it came back, the hallway light was off, and the living room was empty. I don't remember turning it off. I replayed it 3 times. The shadow never fully entered the frame. It stayed partially hidden, like it knew the camera angle, like it didn't want to be seen clearly. Which means it's aware. And I think I know the rule I've been following unconsciously. Don't look at it directly. I've never seen it fully. Always peripheral. Always partial. Because maybe if I do, something final happens. And tonight is coming again. And now the hallway light is off. And it knows I broke the rule. I can feel it. The house feels different already. Quieter. Expectant. Like it's waiting for 3:17. And this time, I don't think it's going to whisper. By 8:40 p.m. I had turned every light in the house on. Not just the hallway. Every room. Kitchen, living room, bathroom, even the garage. Light flooded every corner. I told myself it was practical. If something moves, I'll see it. If something shifts, I'll catch it. But that wasn't the real reason. The real reason was simple. I didn't want shadows. Because shadows are where it stays. The camera footage kept replaying in my head. That lean, that unnatural narrowness. The way it didn't enter fully. It wasn't avoiding the camera. It was respecting a boundary. Like it knew exactly how far it was allowed to go. And that thought has been sitting in my chest all evening. Allowed. There are rules, not just for me, for it too.
And if that's true, then something governs this. Something structured. Not random haunting. Not hallucination. Agreement. I tried to eat around 9. Couldn't. Food felt wrong in my mouth, like chewing was distracting me from something important. I checked the security camera again. Nothing unusual. The house looked harmless on screen. Still, well lit, ordinary. I almost believed it. At 10:13 p.m, my phone buzzed. Not a call, a notification. No app name, just text on a black background. Restore the light. My throat tightened instantly. I didn't respond. There was no option to respond. The notification disappeared after 5 seconds. I opened every messaging app. Nothing. No trace. No source. Restore the light. The hallway switch was still down. Dark. The house felt different now that night had settled. Even with every other room lit, that strip of darkness in the hallway felt intentional. Like a missing tooth. Like something incomplete. I walked to it slowly, stopped 3 feet away. My chest was tight again. If I turn it back on, am I obeying? If I leave it off, am I escalating? There's no winning here, only compliance or defiance, and I don't know the consequences of either. At 11:02 p.m, the security camera feed flickered. Just once, a subtle glitch. No static, just a frame skip. Then normal. My pulse climbed. It's earlier tonight. The pattern is shifting. It's adapting faster. I went into the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed, the phone in my hand, battery at 64%. I plugged it in anyway. I don't know why that felt important. 3:17 a.m. That number is coming, whether I'm ready or not. Midnight passed quietly. 1 a.m. 1:48. 2:12. I didn't blink much. Every small house sound felt amplified. Wood settling, air vents adjusting, the refrigerator compressor cycling. Ordinary sounds, but layered over something else. A presence of waiting. At 2:43 a.m., the hallway light turned on. I did not move. I did not touch the switch. It clicked audibly, soft, mechanical. The hum returned, low and steady. My breathing stopped. The rule was restored, not by me, by it, which means it doesn't need my compliance. It only prefers it. My phone screen lit up without vibration. No sound, just illumination. Black background, white text. Thank you. My vision narrowed. Thank you. For what? For breaking? For testing? For proving something? I tried to swallow, but my mouth was dry. The security camera feed opened on its own. I hadn't touched it. It filled my screen, the living room view, the hallway visible at the edge, the light casting that familiar glow. And then, movement. Not from the hallway, from the living room ceiling corner, high, above the camera's usual line of sight. A shape descending slowly, like it had been attached there, watching, waiting. It moved wrong, not stepping, not climbing,
lowering, as if gravity was optional. My heart pounded so loudly I could hear blood in my ears. The shape reached the top of the hallway entrance and paused. Then it leaned again, just like before, but further this time, more of it visible. Its head tilted at an angle no neck should allow. Long, too long. Limbs narrow, elbows bending slightly backward. It wasn't fully solid. Edges blurred like heat distortion. And then the camera feed glitched. But this time it didn't return. It stayed static. My phone vibrated. Unknown number. 2:58 a.m. It's changing the time. I didn't answer. It rang once, stopped. Immediately, a voice came from behind me, not through the phone, not through speakers. Behind me, close, calm. You looked. The words were barely above a whisper. I couldn't move. My body locked. Cold flooded through my spine. You weren't supposed to look, it said softly. I felt breath near my ear, except there was no warmth, just pressure, like the air itself leaned in. My bedroom door was open. I could see the hallway light from where I sat, still on, still humming. Rules keep things stable, the voice continued. You changed the structure. My mind raced. Structure, agreement, boundaries. I forced myself to speak. My voice cracked. What do you want? Silence stretched. Then, you invited. Invited. The memory flickered again. 3 nights ago, waking up, seeing the light on, thinking, good, it's here. Why would I think that unless I asked for it? My breathing became uneven. What did I invite? I whispered. The pressure behind me shifted slightly, closer. You asked not to be alone. The words pierced something deep. A memory surfaced. That night, sitting in this same bed, after weeks of isolation, after months of silence in this house, after talking to walls, after wishing something would answer. Anything. I remember saying something out loud. I don't remember exact words, but I remember the feeling. Desperation. I remember staring into the hallway darkness and saying, just don't let it be empty anymore. My chest constricted. Oh God. You filled it, the voice said. You created occupancy. The air felt heavier, like the room was smaller. I didn't mean, I started. You meant. The correction was immediate, calm, certain. I felt something brush the back of my shoulder, not touching, hovering a millimeter above skin. You don't like the form, it continued. You don't like visibility. My vision blurred. Tears I didn't realize were forming. I didn't ask for this. You asked for presence. The hallway light flickered. Once, twice. You changed conditions. The pressure withdrew slightly. You must decide parameters. My heart was racing uncontrollably now. Parameters. This isn't random. It's contractual. I don't
want you here. Silence. Then, that is revision. The hallway light went out. Darkness flooded the doorway. Complete. Absolute. And in that darkness, something moved. Closer, faster than before. No longer respecting partial visibility. No longer staying at the edge. I heard the floor creak beside my bed. Weight. Real weight. And the voice, now directly in front of me, inches from my face. Revision requires replacement. My phone screen lit up one final time. 3:17 a.m. Incoming call. Unknown number. And this time, the ringing wasn't coming from the phone. It was coming from inside the closet. The ringing from the closet didn't echo like a normal sound. It felt insulated, contained, like it wasn't traveling through air, but through structure, through wood, through the walls themselves. My phone screen still showed the incoming call, but the sound, it was not coming from my hand. It was coming from inside the closet. Slow, steady, mechanical, old-fashioned, like a landline ring. I didn't own a landline. The figure in front of me did not move. I couldn't see it clearly. The hallway light was off. The bedroom was dim, but I could sense its outline. Too tall to be standing straight in the room, which meant it wasn't standing straight. It was folded, compressed, accommodating the ceiling. Waiting. The ringing continued. 3 rings, pause. 3 rings, pause. Answer, it said. Not loud, not aggressive. Instructional, like it was guiding me through something routine. My legs felt disconnected from my body, but I stood, slowly. If I turned quickly, I knew I would see it fully, and I wasn't ready for that. The closet door was 3 steps away. The ringing stopped. Silence. Then, one single ring. Sharp. Demanding. I grabbed the handle and opened it. There was no phone inside, just my clothes, boxes, shoes, but sitting on the top shelf, something I had never seen before. A small black object. Rectangular, smooth, no buttons, no branding, no screen. It shouldn't have fit through the attic hatch. It shouldn't exist in this house. Yet it was there, and it was vibrating, not loudly, but subtly, like a pulse. The figure behind me spoke again. Device establishes boundary. My mouth felt numb. What boundary? I whispered. Inside, outside. The object vibrated once more, then stopped. Silence returned to the room, but it was not empty silence. It was attentive, waiting for input, waiting for my decision. I reached up and touched the object. It was warm, warmer than it should be.
like it had been held recently. The moment my fingers wrapped around it, the hallway light snapped back on, violently bright. The bedroom flooded with illumination, and for the first time, I saw it. Not fully, never fully, but enough. It wasn't a solid body. It was a distortion, like heat waves in the shape of a man, limbs elongated, joints slightly wrong, head angled too far to the side. No face, but an indentation where one should be. A suggestion of features, incomplete, unfinished, like it had formed from memory instead of biology. It didn't step toward me. It didn't need to. It occupied space by existing, and I understood something then. It wasn't trying to harm me. It was trying to stabilize something I had destabilized. The object in my hand vibrated again, this time with rhythm. Short, short, long. A pattern, Morse code. My grandfather taught me Morse code when I was a kid. I haven't thought about that in years, but my brain translated automatically. Short, short, long, U, pause. Short, E, pause. Long, long, short, G, U, E, G. That didn't make sense. It repeated, short, short, long, short, long, long, short, over and over. Then I realized I was reading it wrong. It wasn't U, E, G. It was yes. Short, short, long. Short, long, long, short. It was crude, imperfect, but intentional. Yes. The object was waiting for confirmation. Confirmation of what? The figure shifted slightly. The air pressure in the room changed with it. You asked for occupancy, it said calmly. You must define permanence. Permanence. If I say yes, it stays. If I say no, revision, replacement. The word echoed in my head. Revision requires replacement. Replacement of what? Of me? My pulse was erratic now. The object vibrated again, faster. Yes. It wanted commitment. It wanted structure formalized. And the worst part, the house didn't feel hostile. It felt less empty. That hollow silence I'd been drowning in for months was gone, replaced with presence, awareness, attention, something watching, something responding. I hadn't slept well in weeks before this started, not because of fear, because of isolation, because the house felt like a void. And now, it didn't. That realization made something crack inside me. The figure leaned slightly closer, not threatening, just attentive. "You resist form," it said softly. "You accept function." Function. It was right. I didn't care what it looked like. I cared that the silence had stopped, that the emptiness wasn't crushing anymore. I felt tears forming again. This wasn't horror. This was negotiation. And I was losing because part of me didn't want to win. The object vibrated again, slower now, waiting. My throat tightened. "What happens if I say no?" I asked. Silence. Then, vacancy restored. Vacancy. Empty house. No voice, no movement, no presence. Just me again. Alone. The hallway light flickered softly, like a heartbeat. The security camera notification suddenly reappeared on my phone screen. Live feed restored. I glanced down. The living room was empty, normal. But in the upper corner, where it had descended earlier, there was nothing. No distortion, no shape. Because it was here, in my room, waiting for my answer. The object paused one final time. Yes. My mouth opened, and for a moment, I didn't know which answer was mine. My mouth was still open when I realized something terrible. The object wasn't waiting for my answer. It was waiting for recognition. Because I had already answered. Weeks ago, maybe longer. The vibration pattern changed, not yes anymore. Now it was steady, constant, satisfied. The figure in front of me straightened slightly, not fully. It still bent wrong at the joints, but enough to feel settled. Permanence acknowledged, it said. My stomach dropped. "I didn't say anything," I whispered. The indentation where its face should have been tilted. "You did." The hallway light stopped flickering. It became stable, bright, comfortably bright. The kind of brightness that makes a house feel lived in. And suddenly, I remembered. Not in fragments, not distorted. Clearly. 3 weeks ago, sitting in this bed, phone in my hand, scrolling through forums I barely understood. Threads about presence, about never being alone, about something that answers when you stop pretending you don't need it. I remember typing. I remember deleting, typing again. The phrase I finally posted. If something is listening, I consent to occupancy. My lungs emptied all at once. I had written that. Late, tired, lonely, desperate. It felt stupid the next morning, embarrassing. I deleted the account. I forgot about it. But consent doesn't expire just because you regret it. You defined entry, the figure said. You allowed continuation. The object in my hand stopped vibrating entirely. Its surface became cool, dormant, because the agreement was active. I shook my head slowly. No, that was just words. The air in the room tightened. Words structure reality. The sentence didn't feel threatening, It felt factual, like gravity, like temperature. You asked not to be alone, it continued. You specified permanence. Memory flashed again, a second post, one I had completely buried. I don't want temporary comfort. I want something that stays. Something that stays. God, I had thought I was screaming into digital emptiness, into anonymous void. But void listens, and void answers. You constructed parameters, it said softly. Presence, duration, stability. The hallway light hummed gently, comfortably. The house didn't feel tense anymore. It felt aligned. And that terrified me more than the shadow ever could. What about replacement? I asked. The word tasted metallic. The figure leaned slightly closer. You misinterpreted. Cold slid through my spine. Replacement is not physical. My heartbeat slowed. Not because I was calm, because I was bracing. Vacancy required identity anchor, it explained. You offered yours. Something in my chest tightened painfully. Identity anchor. You provided self-reference, memory, voice, habit. The room felt smaller. My reflection in the dark TV screen across the bedroom caught my eye, and for half a second, it moved a fraction too late. You are not replaced, it continued. You are integrated. Integrated. The word echoed like a verdict. You stabilize structure. We stabilize vacancy. We, plural. That word hadn't been used before. My mouth went dry. How many? I asked. Silence stretched. Then, enough to prevent collapse. The house creaked softly, not settling, breathing. My reflection in the TV blinked. I hadn't. A thin crack formed somewhere deep inside my perception. Something subtle, almost imperceptible, like a thread being pulled loose. You will retain continuity, it said. You will not experience absence. Absence. That crushing silence. That hollow echo I'd been drowning in. Gone. Replaced by this. Presence in the walls, in the corners, in the ceiling space above the camera. Watching. Maintaining. And what do you get? I whispered. The indentation where its face should be shifted slightly. Form. The word landed heavily. You resist form. You accept function. That sentence again, like it mattered. You give structure. We receive boundary. My breathing felt shallow, unstable. You become reference, it said calmly. The realization unfolded slowly, like ice spreading across glass. The shadow wasn't independent. It was shaped by me, by my memory of what something frightening looks like, by my subconscious expectations. It didn't choose that distorted form. I did. I gave it limbs too long. I gave it the tilted head. I gave it the absence of a face. because that's what I feared. And fear gives shape. You are not haunted, it continued. You are hosting. The word made my skin crawl, but the house felt steady, grounded, alive in a way it never had before. My phone screen lit up again. No notification, just the camera feed. The living room, empty, except in the reflection of the dark window, a silhouette stood behind the couch, still, watching, but not intruding, just present. I swallowed. If I revoke it, I asked. Silence. Then, revision requires vacancy, and vacancy requires... The hallway light dimmed slightly. Removal of anchor. Cold. Absolute cold. Death? I asked. No. The answer was immediate. Displacement. That word was worse, because death is final. Displacement suggests ongoing, elsewhere, uncontained. I felt something shift behind my eyes, a pressure, subtle, like something settling into grooves in my thoughts. You are already stabilizing, it said. Observe. The room felt balanced, symmetrical. The distortion in front of me seemed less jagged now, less aggressive, more defined, because I was accepting it. And the more I accepted it, the more it resembled something comprehensible. The horror wasn't that it entered. The horror was that it fit. The object in my hand dissolved, not dramatically. It simply wasn't there anymore, like it had completed its purpose. You will not be alone again, the figure said softly, and for a moment, that felt like comfort. Then my phone vibrated, a new notification from an app I didn't recognize. Black icon, no name. Inside it, a forum, threads scrolling endlessly, usernames blank, posts identical. If something is listening, I consent to occupancy. Over and over, hundreds of them, thousands, and at the bottom of the screen, a new reply appeared. From my account, timestamped now, just seconds ago. I confirm permanence. My hands began to shake. I didn't type that. You did, the figure said gently. My reflection in the TV smiled. I did not. And that's when I understood. Integration doesn't remove you. It duplicates perspective. There is me, and there is the version of me that prefers presence over emptiness. And that version is stronger at night. The hallway light glowed warmly, steady, stable. The figure began to fade slightly, not leaving, just redistributing into corners, into ceiling space, into the narrow spaces between walls. You are stable, it said. For now. For now, I echoed. structure requires maintenance. The house creaked softly again, settling into its new balance. And as the distortion dissolved into shadow, I felt something subtle but undeniable. A second set of awareness behind my own. Not controlling, not speaking, just observing through me, with me. The bedroom felt normal again, almost peaceful, too peaceful. My phone screen went dark, the camera feed closed, the hallway light remained on, exactly as it should be. I stood alone in the room, except I wasn't alone, and I won't be, ever again. The next morning felt normal. That was the worst part. Sunlight came through the blinds exactly the way it always did. Thin, pale stripes across the wall. The hallway light was still on, but softer now. It didn't hum anymore. It didn't flicker. It just existed, like it always had. For a few seconds after waking, I almost convinced myself it had been a stress episode. Isolation, lack of sleep, too much time alone. Then I blinked, and my reflection in the dresser mirror blinked a fraction too late. Not dramatically, not enough for anyone else to notice, but enough for me. The delay was small, maybe half a second, but it was there, and it wasn't random. It was adjustment, calibration. I sat up slowly. Nothing moved in the room. No distortion in the corners. No elongated limbs pressed into the ceiling. The air felt calm, balanced, integrated. That word again. Integrated. I swung my legs over the edge of the bed and stood. My body felt normal. No weakness, no dizziness. But there was something else. A secondary awareness. Not a voice. Not thoughts that weren't mine. More like observation layered behind my perception. Like someone standing just behind my eyes, looking through them with quiet interest. I walked into the hallway. The light above me glowed warmly. Steady, reliable. And when I reached the kitchen, the house felt occupied. Not physically, energetically. Like walking into a room where someone had just been speaking. You don't hear them, but the air still holds their presence. I made coffee, hands steady, breathing even. And for a moment, I felt almost grateful, because the crushing silence that used to live in this house was gone. There was weight now, density, something holding the walls in place. Then my phone buzzed. A normal notification this time. Text from Mark. I hadn't seen him in months. You alive? Haven't heard from you in a while. I stared at the message. Something inside me tightened. Not fear. Resistance. The awareness behind my eyes sharpened slightly. like it didn't approve. Maintenance requires stability, and stability means minimal disruption. I typed back, "Yeah, just busy." 3 dots appeared immediately. "Can I stop by later?" The air in the kitchen shifted, subtle, like pressure changing before a storm. My thumb hovered over the screen. A faint sensation moved through my chest. A warning. Not verbal, not forced, just clear. External variables introduce instability. The hallway light flickered once. I looked at it instinctively. It steadied. Mark sent another message. "Been worried about you, man." Worried. That word used to mean something comforting. Now it felt invasive. The awareness behind my eyes pulsed faintly. He cannot perceive. Perceive what? The integration. The occupancy. If someone else enters, does the structure stretch? Does it expand? Or does it compress? I walked slowly back toward the hallway. The house felt tighter, focused, attentive, like it was listening to my internal debate. "I'll think about it," I typed. I didn't send it. My reflection in the dark microwave door was clearer this time. Perfectly synced. No delay. That frightened me more than the lag had. Adaptation. Fast. Efficient. Maintenance. I put the phone down on the counter. "I need to know something," I said aloud. Silence. But not empty silence. "You said structure requires maintenance." The air cooled slightly. A faint distortion shimmered near the ceiling line, barely visible. Yes. The answer wasn't heard. It was understood. What happens if someone else comes here? Then, stability fluctuates. That's not an answer. Then, perception spreads. The words felt heavy, careful, meaningful. "If he sees you," the distortion shifted subtly, "he will not see form." Then what's the problem? Silence again. Then, "He will feel vacancy." My chest tightened. Vacancy. The crushing emptiness that had nearly hollowed me out. "You'll give it to him," I whispered. No. The answer came sharper this time. "We will draw from anchor." Cold spread through my arms. Draw from anchor. From me. So if Mark walks into this house and the structure needs stabilization, it will use my identity, my awareness, my energy, whatever that means. My breathing became shallow. "How much?" I asked. Silence. Then, "Proportional." That word was terrifying. Because proportional to what? Time? Proximity? Emotional connection? Mark called. Not text. Called. His name filled the screen. The house tightened again. The hallway light dimmed slightly. The awareness behind my eyes sharpened like a lens focusing. External presence imminent. I answered. Hey. My voice sounded normal, maybe slightly thinner. You okay? Mark asked immediately. Yeah. You sound weird. The distortion near the ceiling intensified briefly, almost imperceptible. I forced a laugh. Didn't sleep much. You sure you don't mind if I come by? I'm nearby. Nearby. The word echoed like a countdown. The house creaked softly, not settling, preparing. The awareness behind my eyes pulsed again. Instability, maintenance threshold lowering. If he enters, the system will compensate, and compensation means draw. From anchor. From me. I imagined Mark stepping into the hallway, the light flickering, the structure stretching, my identity thinning. Would he leave feeling fine, while I felt less? I swallowed. Not today, I said. There was a long pause on the other end. You sure? Yeah. The hallway light brightened slightly, stability restoring. Mark sighed. All right. Call me later. Yeah. We hung up. The moment the call ended, the house relaxed. Actually relaxed. The pressure eased. The awareness behind my eyes softened. You're isolating me, I said quietly. Correction, came the calm response. You requested non-vacancy. I leaned against the wall. This isn't the same. Presence requires containment. I understood it then. The more people I let in, the thinner the structure becomes, the more it draws from me to maintain form. Eventually, there may not be enough anchor left, not to kill me, but to dilute me. Displacement, not death. Becoming background, becoming structural, a part of the house instead of the one living in it. You're using me, I said. Then, we are sustaining each other. That sentence landed quietly, not cruel, not manipulative, just factual. The loneliness that used to suffocate me was gone, but the cost was subtle erosion, not dramatic, not violent, gradual. Maintenance. I walked back into the bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed. The room felt peaceful, balanced, occupied, and for a moment, I felt calm, truly calm, because I wasn't alone. And maybe that's what scares me most. Not that something is here, but that part of me is relieved it is. The hallway light glowed steadily, stable, maintained. Behind my eyes, the awareness watched quietly, patient. And somewhere deep in the walls, something adjusted. Not to attack, not to threaten, just to ensure the structure holds. I didn't go looking for proof. Proof came looking for me. It started with something small. 3 days after I told Mark not to visit, I left the house for the first time in a week. The air outside felt thin, wrong, like stepping out of a pressurized room. My chest felt exposed, unshielded. The world sounded too open. Cars passing, wind in trees, distant voices, noise without containment. The house had density, structure. Outside felt vacant. I locked the door behind me. The moment it clicked shut, a faint pressure eased behind my eyes. Distance weakens integration. That wasn't spoken, it was inferred. I drove without destination, just movement, testing something. The farther I went from the house, the quieter the secondary awareness became. Not gone, just softer, like a signal fading. By the time I reached the edge of town, it was almost silent. And the silence felt familiar. The old kind, the crushing kind, the kind that makes your thoughts echo too loudly. I pulled into a gas station and sat there with the engine running. People walked in and out of the convenience store, talking, normal. I felt like I was watching through glass, detached, not disconnected from reality, disconnected from structure. That's when I saw it. Across the parking lot, inside a parked SUV, a man sitting in the driver's seat. Still. Not on his phone, not listening to music, just sitting, staring forward. At first, I thought nothing of it. Then he blinked, and his reflection in the rearview mirror blinked half a second later. My stomach dropped. He didn't react, didn't notice. The delay was subtle, but it was there. The same calibration, the same adjustment. I watched him for a full minute. He didn't move much, just sat, present, but not entirely alone. My pulse started climbing. It's not just my house. The awareness behind my eyes stirred faintly, distant, attentive, recognition. I stepped out of my car slowly. The air felt colder suddenly. Not temperature, density. As I walked across the parking lot, the man's head tilted slightly. Not toward me, just slightly wrong. The same angle, the same unnatural degree. My breathing became shallow. When I was 10 feet from his SUV, he turned and looked directly at me. And in his eyes, there was understanding. Not confusion, not fear, recognition. He rolled down his window halfway. "You feel it too," he said calmly. It wasn't a question. My throat tightened. Feel what? He studied me carefully, like assessing structural integrity. "How long?" he asked. "Since what?" "Since occupancy." The word hit like a physical blow. I didn't answer. He nodded slowly anyway. Yeah, he murmured. Same. My heart was pounding now. How many? I asked. He smiled faintly, not happily, resigned. More than you think. A car pulled into the parking lot behind me. For a split second, I saw the driver inside. Still, head tilted slightly, blink lagging. Then the awareness behind my eyes pulsed stronger. Alert. Exposure threshold rising. The man in the SUV leaned closer to the window. They cluster, he said quietly, where structure weakens. What does that mean? Places with vacancy, abandoned houses, new constructions, single occupants, lonely men in quiet homes. The pattern formed quickly in my mind. They don't like shared spaces, he continued. Too much instability. That's why I stopped myself. That's why you avoid visitors, he finished. My chest tightened. You too, he nodded once. If someone stays too long, it pulls. Pulls what? Identity. My hands felt cold. Have you lost anything? I asked. He didn't answer immediately. His gaze drifted briefly past me, toward my car, toward the direction of my house. I forget things, he said eventually. Small things. Like what? My sister's laugh. The words came out flat. I know she laughed. I just can't remember how it sounded. That hit harder than I expected. What happens if you leave? I asked. His jaw tightened. I tried once. The awareness behind my eyes sharpened, interested. I drove 3 states away, he continued. Signal weakened, structure loosened. And I felt empty again. The word lingered between us. Vacancy. And that scared you? He nodded once. I went back. Of course he did. We all go back, because loneliness is worse than distortion. A truck engine roared somewhere behind me. The parking lot felt heavier now, dense. I glanced around casually. 2 more drivers inside their vehicles, still watching nothing. Or maybe watching everything. How many are in this town? I asked. The man's lips pressed together. Enough. The awareness behind my eyes pulsed stronger. Mourning. Convergence. The man's gaze shifted slightly, not at me, behind me, my reflection in the SUV's side mirror. Smiled. I didn't. The man saw it. He inhaled sharply. They synchronize when anchors meet, he said quietly. What does that mean? It means don't stand too close to me. Cold flooded through my chest. The air between us felt charged, like static building, like 2 systems trying to merge. The awareness behind my eyes pressed forward suddenly. Not violent, curious, testing. The man flinched slightly. You feel that? He whispered. Yes. It's comparing. Comparing what? Anchor strength, identity stability, compatibility. I stepped back instinctively. The pressure eased immediately. The man relaxed slightly. They don't want collapse, he said. They want network. The word hung in the air. Network. Not isolated houses, not separate hauntings. Connected structure, maintained through individuals who asked not to be alone. How many towns? I asked. He gave a humorless smile. You think it's just towns? The awareness behind my eyes went still, very still, like it was listening carefully now. The man leaned closer again, lowering his voice. Online was the doorway, he said. Consent spreads fast. My mind flashed back to the forum. Thousands of identical posts. If something is listening, I consent to occupancy. I felt sick. They don't invade, he continued. They respond. Cars began starting around the lot, engines turning over almost in sync. My pulse spiked. The awareness behind my eyes intensified sharply. Signal strengthening. Multiple anchors in proximity. The man's expression shifted. They're sinking, he said quietly. Go. What? Go home. The word home felt heavier than it should. If you stay too long, he continued, you won't know which awareness is yours. My breathing quickened. I stepped back. The engines idled, drivers sitting still, watching forward. Or maybe watching through reflections. I turned and walked quickly to my car. Didn't run. Running would imply fear, and fear gives shape. I got inside and locked the door. The moment I started the engine, the awareness behind my eyes sharpened again. Clearer, focused, directional. Home. It wanted home. Structure stabilizes at origin. I looked once more at the SUV. The man was still watching me, but his reflection was looking elsewhere, toward the growing cluster of vehicles, and for the first time, I saw it. Across windshields, in mirrors, in glass storefront reflections. Distortions. Subtle, barely visible, like elongated shadows adjusting posture. Network forming. Maintenance expanding. I drove, fast enough to leave. Not fast enough to panic. As I turned onto my street, the pressure behind my eyes intensified. Relief. Signal restoring. When I stepped back into my house, the density returned instantly. Comforting. Balanced. Contained. The hallway light glowed warmly. Stable. You observed expansion, the calm internal understanding said. Yes, I whispered. Network ensures resilience. How big? I asked. Silence. Then, growing. My stomach tightened. And what happens when it's complete? A long pause, longer than usual. Then, vacancy eliminated. The sentence sounded peaceful, optimistic, almost benevolent. But vacancy isn't just loneliness. Vacancy is space, privacy, individuality. If vacancy is eliminated, there is no alone anywhere. I I stood in the hallway, the light steady above me, the house calm, the awareness layered behind my own. And for the first time, I understood the scale. This isn't haunting. This isn't possession. This is infrastructure. And I helped build it. I didn't go looking for him. He found me. 2 nights after the gas station, I was sitting in my living room with all the lights off. That had changed. Before integration, I couldn't stand darkness. Now it felt structured, layered, occupied in a way that made shadows feel intentional instead of empty. The hallway light was still on. It always was. Maintenance constant. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something behind my eyes sharpened. Curious. So I did. Hello? Silence. Then breathing. Shallow. Uneven. He told me about you. The voice was male, thin, frayed. The parking lot, he added quickly. My chest tightened. How did you get this number? He didn't give it. I saw it. Cold moved through me. Saw it? You were standing near him, the voice continued. When the signal flared. Signal. My grip tightened on the phone. You feel stable, he said. Not accusing, almost envious. What do you want? I asked quietly. A long pause, then, how do you live with it? The question felt heavier than it should. I don't fight it, I said. Silence, then a sound, a soft laugh, broken. I did. The awareness behind my eyes sharpened slightly, alert. You refused, I said. Yes. The word came out like air escaping a punctured lung. What happened? I don't know why I asked. Maybe I needed to hear it. Maybe part of me wanted proof that integration was safer. There was a scraping sound on his end, like something dragging across wood. It left, he said. Relief flickered instinctively in my chest. Then he continued. At first, my stomach tightened. The house felt empty again, he said. But different. How? Thinner. Thinner. The word settled uneasily. I thought I'd won, he said. I thought I broke the agreement. The hallway light flickered once, not unstable, just attentive. But you didn't, I said quietly. No. Another scraping sound, closer this time. It stopped maintaining, he whispered. My breathing slowed involuntarily. What does that mean? Things stopped holding. The awareness behind my eyes pulsed faintly, listening carefully. My reflection started lagging again, he said. But worse. How worse? It wouldn't match me. Cold slid down my spine. What do you mean? If I smiled, it didn't. Silence. If I blinked, it stared. The scraping sound again, longer, like something shifting across a ceiling. I thought it was trying to scare me back into consent, he said. Was it? No, the word came quickly, too quickly. It wasn't trying to return. My heart pounded once, hard. Then what was it doing? A pause, a tremor in his breathing. It was withdrawing. The hallway light dimmed slightly. Subtle. What happens when it withdraws? I asked. His voice dropped lower. It takes what it used. My throat went dry. Identity anchor, I whispered. Yes. A thud echoed faintly through the phone. Not loud, but heavy. What did you lose? I asked. There was a long silence. So long, I thought the call dropped. Then, my name. The word barely made it through. I know I have one, he continued. I just can't hold it. The awareness behind my eyes tightened, not sympathetic, observing. And it didn't come back? I asked. No. Another dragging sound. Above him. I could hear it clearly now, like weight shifting in an attic. It's not in the house anymore, he whispered. It's inside me. My pulse spiked. What do you mean? It didn't reintegrate, he said. It fragmented. Fragmented. The word felt sharp. When it maintained the house, it had boundaries, he continued. Walls, corners, structure. And now? It doesn't. The dragging sound became heavier, like something crawling slowly across ceiling beams. It doesn't have walls anymore, he whispered. The awareness behind my eyes flared sharply, alert, threat proximity rising. Where are you? I asked. Silence. Then, next to you. My chest seized. The hallway light flickered violently once. I stood immediately, heart hammering. That's not funny, I said. I'm not joking. His breathing was louder now, closer to the phone. Look outside. Cold. Absolute cold. My legs felt disconnected, but I moved, slowly, toward the front window. The hallway light brightened. Not protective, attentive. I reached the curtain and hesitated. You feel stable because it's contained, he whispered. You think that's safety. My hand trembled as I pulled the curtain aside. Across the street, a car was parked. Engine off, lights off, driver's seat occupied. A man sitting still, head slightly tilted. My reflection in the window didn't tilt, but his did. You see me? He said softly. My throat tightened. Yes. It won't let me back in, he continued. It won't stabilize me. The awareness behind my eyes pulsed with cold clarity. Rejected anchor. Structural risk. He leaned forward slightly in the car. I tried to reconsent, he said. It doesn't answer. The scraping sound echoed again, but this time, not through the phone. Above me, in my own ceiling. Slow, measured, like something dragging across drywall. My blood ran cold. It followed you, I whispered. No, he corrected gently. It followed vacancy. The hallway light dimmed sharply, then steadied. Maintenance compensating. He's unstable, the calm awareness behind my eyes understood. Containment required. My stomach twisted. You can't let him in, I whispered. I don't want to be alone again, he said. His voice cracked. I thought emptiness was better. The dragging sound moved toward the center of my ceiling. Slow, heavy, not contained. Fragmented presence doesn't respect walls. The hallway light flickered again, more intensely. The house felt strained, pressure building. If he crosses the threshold, the system will attempt integration, but fragmented anchors destabilize structure. I understood suddenly. He wasn't asking for help. He was desperate for structure. And the network doesn't reintegrate failed anchors. It isolates them. You need to leave, I said urgently. Where? He whispered. The scraping sound stopped, directly above me. Silence. Then, a crack. Thin. Hairline. Spreading across the ceiling paint. The hallway light dimmed further. Strain increasing. You can't stay near houses, I said. You pull from them. I can't stop it, he whispered. The crack widened slightly. Plaster dust fell lightly onto the floor. He's destabilizing local structure. The awareness behind my eyes understood calmly. Distance required. Drive, I said firmly. Right now. He didn't respond immediately. Then I heard a car door open, close, engine turn over. The scraping above me intensified briefly, then shifted, moved, away. The hallway light flared brightly, then steadied. The crack in the ceiling stopped spreading. Silence returned, contained, stable. I stared at the ceiling for a long time, breathing slowly. The car across the street pulled away, turned the corner. Gone. The awareness behind my eyes softened. Maintenance restored. But something had changed. He wasn't attacked. He wasn't hunted. He was abandoned, fragmented, left without containment. and the network didn't correct it. It rejected him, which means integration isn't optional once stabilized. It's binding, and refusal doesn't free you. It removes structure. I slowly lowered the curtain. The house felt heavier now, more cautious, more aware. He will degrade, the calm understanding formed quietly, until anchor dissolves. And then, I whispered, silence, longer than usual. Then, vacancy reclaimed. The words landed softly, almost gentle, but I understood the meaning. When he fully loses identity, he becomes space, not person, not presence. Vacancy. And vacancy is what the network fills next. I stood in the hallway, the light steady above me, the house contained, maintained, and for the first time, I didn't feel lucky to be integrated. I felt selected. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was afraid, because I was thinking. The network isn't violent. It doesn't invade. It doesn't scream. It responds. It stabilizes. It grows where vacancy invites it, which means it depends on consent. Even delayed consent, even regretful consent. But consent is still structure, and structure can be broken. The hallway light glowed steadily above me, maintenance active, presence layered behind my perception, calm, observing, patient. It wasn't worried, because why would it be? Integration is comfortable, and comfort is adhesive. But I kept thinking about the man in the car, fragmented, uncontained, not dead, worse, dissolving. If refusal caused collapse, then collapse is the weakness, not of me, of it. I walked into the living room slowly, no lights on now, just the hallway glow stretching across the floor. I want to test something, I said aloud. Silence, then the subtle internal awareness. Specify. That word again, always contractual, always precise. What happens if I withdraw consent? Long pause, longer than usual. Then, consent established permanence. That's not what I asked. The air cooled slightly. Withdrawal introduces instability. Yes. A beat. Then, instability requires correction. Correction, maintenance, drawing from anchor, unless there isn't enough anchor to draw from. I walked to the breaker panel in the hallway closet. The house felt the intention. The awareness behind my eyes sharpened, alert. You are destabilizing environment, it observed. Yes. Specify purpose. To see what happens. Silence. Then, unnecessary. Maybe, but necessary to me. I opened the breaker panel. Rows of switches, clean, organized. I placed my fingers on the main breaker. The awareness pulsed stronger now. Not fear, calculation. You depend on continuity, I said quietly. Continuity ensures structure, and structure ensures you. Pause. Yes. There it was, dependency acknowledged. I flipped the main breaker. Everything went dark. Absolute darkness. No hum, no hallway light, no ambient glow from appliances. Just black. And in that black, for the first time since integration, silence. Real silence. Crushing. Heavy. Vacancy. It hit instantly, like pressure dropping. The awareness behind my eyes spasmed sharply. Signal interrupted. The darkness felt thicker than before, because now I knew what structure felt like, and this was absence. You are degrading stability, the internal presence said sharply. For the first time, there was strain in it. Good. I stepped back from the breaker panel. Let the dark swallow the house. No light means no defined corners. No defined corners means no boundaries. No boundaries means no containment. The air shifted violently above me, not physically, but perceptually, like something trying to find its edges. You require illumination, I whispered. Light defines space. Silence. Then, restoration recommended. Recommended, not commanded. Interesting. In the darkness, my reflection in the hallway mirror was invisible. No lag, no distortion, because there was no light to hold form. You exist in defined space, I continued quietly, and I give you definition. The awareness pulsed hard, stronger. You are anchor, it said. Yes. And anchors can sink. Silence. Then cold. Intense cold. It wasn't external, it was internal, like something pulling backward inside my chest, drawing, harder than before. Compensation attempt. It was trying to stabilize without light, without defined structure, drawing directly from me. My breath shortened, vision narrowing. This was the cost. If I destabilize the house, it draws harder. But that means it needs me. You can't sustain without boundaries, I whispered through shallow breaths. Silence. Then, boundaries may shift. The cold intensified. My thoughts felt thinner, edges softening, like memory losing contrast. No, that's what happened to the man who refused. He lost identity because structure withdrew. But what if I destabilize too fast, force the network to choose between me and containment? The cold deepened. I staggered slightly against the wall. You are weakening anchor, it said calmly. Reversal advised. I laughed quietly. Weakening anchor. Good. That's the point. If I collapse, I said, breath uneven, you lose local structure. Pause. Longer than any before. Calculation. Risk assessment. The cold fluctuated. It wasn't sure. You are integrated, it said finally. Yes. And I revoke participation. The sentence felt heavy, final. The darkness pressed in. For a split second, I felt nothing behind my eyes. No layered awareness, no observation, just me, alone. And it was terrifying. Then, the cold returned violently, harder, like a last attempt to hold. My knees hit the floor, vision blurring. It was trying to stabilize, but without light, without walls defined, without boundaries. It couldn't distribute properly. It had to pull directly from anchor, from me. You depend on vacancy, I gasped. And I won't host it. The air felt like it was vibrating, not sound, pressure. The house groaned softly, structural strain. If I black out, it may reinstate light, it may override, unless I remove the physical structure entirely. My house groped along the wall until I found the front door. I pulled it open. Night air flooded in, cold, wide, undefined. Vacancy expanded beyond containment. No walls, no corners, no hallway light, just open dark. The awareness behind my eyes faltered, signal scattering. No containment, I whispered. No house. The cold inside my chest fractured suddenly, not gone, but dispersed, like static breaking apart. For the first time, I felt it weaken. Not me, it. You are dispersing structure, it said, and there it was. Fear, not emotional fear, structural threat. You require walls, I said quietly. You require defined vacancy. Silence. The pressure thinned. The cold retreated slowly, not completely, but enough. The layered awareness faded, faint, distant, signal degraded. I collapsed against the doorway, breathing hard, the house behind me dark, dead. Just wood and drywall again. No hum, no glow, no density, only silence. Real silence. And it was unbearable. But it was mine. Minutes passed, maybe longer. The cold did not return. The awareness did not reform. Just wind, just distant traffic, just night. Finally, I stood, went back inside, flipped the breaker on. Lights returned. Normal. No flicker, no hum. The hallway light stayed off. I left it off. The house felt empty, completely, and the emptiness pressed hard against my ribs. But there was no second awareness, no layered perception, no distortion. Just me, alone. I walked to the mirror, looked at my reflection. We blinked at the same time, perfectly. No delay, no correction, just symmetry. I waited. Nothing moved behind me, Nothing breathed above the ceiling, nothing dragged across the walls. The network disconnected. For now. But I know something. It didn't collapse. It rerouted. Infrastructure doesn't die easily. It redistributes. Somewhere, another house stabilized. Another hallway light flickered on. Another lonely voice typed, "If something is listening." And this time, it won't be me answering. Thank you for staying until the very end of this story. The darkness still hides many secrets, and more mysterious tales are yet to come. Subscribe and turn on the bell so you won't get lost in the shadows and will be the first to hear them.